Good afternoon from the National Weather Service office in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm meteorologist Donald Jones with your 3 p.m. update on the potential severe weather that we're anticipating across the region both this evening and tomorrow morning. This is actually going to come in two rounds of severe thunderstorms. The first one has actually already begun, although we haven't seen a whole lot out there. I'll show you the radar here in just a second. But over the next, say, 3 to 4 hours or so, as we go through the early evening, we are anticipating the possibility of a few strong to severe thunderstorms. Now, we're not expecting a whole heck of a lot this evening, but any storms that do develop will have the potential to be strong to severe. Our biggest severe weather risk, though, is coming tomorrow, especially tomorrow morning, when we're expecting more widespread severe thunderstorms across the region. Now, as was the case yesterday, we're looking at the highest overall risk across parts of central and south central Louisiana. But the even higher risk than that is actually the parts of southern and central Mississippi and central Alabama, who are really going to be under the gun. Nonetheless, we are going to be looking at a severe weather threat across our region tomorrow morning. I think most of the activity is out of our area by early tomorrow afternoon. So the day is not going to be a complete washout. I think by 1 or 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we'll have most of this activity out of here. The severe weather threat will be over, and we may actually see the sun before the day is all the way over with as that cold front comes through and starts to clear the clouds out of the region. We're going to talk about all of that here over the next little while. We'll also answer any questions you may have. So if you do have a question as we go through our briefing here, feel free to throw them in our comment section, and I'll be happy to answer them just as soon as we wrap up our briefing. I want to start off here by showing the radar. So let me see if I can pull that up here real quick for you. Just kind of give you an idea of what's going on out there at the moment. You can see there's a few very light showers across the region. I don't have the, let me see if I can put the cities on here. There we go. That's a little bit better. So you can see there are a few very light showers right now. Certainly nothing severe at this point, but this is the first activity that we've seen so far today. And we are going to be looking at this activity potentially increasing in coverage and intensity through, say, about 7, 8 o'clock this evening. That's kind of the time frame we're looking at for the severe weather threat this evening. Then we're going to have a little bit of a break, and then we'll be looking at the second round of severe weather moving through the area tomorrow morning. So let's go ahead and jump into that now. I'm going to make this full screen just because it's easier for all of us to see. You can see we do have a strong disturbance moving across the central part of the United States. That's going to be responsible for both these rounds of severe weather tonight and tomorrow. The graphic you're looking at on the right-hand side of the screen there is actually the severe weather threat for tomorrow. That's going to be the higher overall risk. In fact, parts of the area from, not our area, but parts of southern Mississippi from Jackson up towards Birmingham are in a rare high-risk area from the Storm Prediction Center for a tornado outbreak essentially expected across parts of central and southern Mississippi and central and southern Alabama as we go through the morning tomorrow. We're going to be looking at that activity. You can see we are still looking at a large swath of the area, anywhere from a marginal risk across southeast Texas to a moderate risk. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and show you. We'll start off, though, talking about what to expect today and this evening. We'll kind of take this in chronological order a little bit. We are looking at a wind advisory still in effect across the region this evening. It's been breezy out there today. We've been looking at gusts 25, 30 miles an hour, and that is going to continue through about 7 p.m. this evening. These are not associated with thunderstorms. These are what we call gradient winds. These are winds that actually just develop because of the proximity of the area of low pressure that's going to be bringing us that severe weather. So this is actually, again, these winds will come down a little bit as we go through the evening and overnight hours. But as we get into tomorrow morning, we'll be looking at winds associated with those severe thunderstorms moving into the area, even without these very strong winds. This is a look at our severe weather outlook going through the rest of the afternoon into early this evening. You can see the majority of the area in a marginal risk. The area is highlighted in green there. That's a category 1 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center severe weather scale. Parts of Rapides and Avoyles parishes and at slight risk. That's the areas highlighted in yellow. That's a category 2 out of 5. For a little bit higher overall risk for seeing severe weather. And right now it looks like damaging winds and the potential for large hail this evening is going to be the biggest overall risk. Now, as we move into tomorrow morning, the tornado threat is going to increase. So tomorrow, the tornado threat is actually going to be the biggest risk. But for tonight, it's looking like a large hail potential is going to be our biggest overall risk. You see the tornado risk going through the rest of this evening. We're looking at roughly about a 2 to 4% chance of seeing a tornado. So not ruling it out completely, but the overall risk is pretty low. And you can see the areas that covers listed there on the right-hand side of the screen. So Avoyles, Rapides, Vernon, Allen, Jeff Davis, Acadia, and Evangeline, as well as St. Landry, Lafayette, Vermilion, Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes. Those are the areas that are highlighted in green on the map on the left. So we're looking at a 2 to 4% chance of seeing a tornado this evening somewhere in those areas. Taking a look at the overall wind risk, this is the probability of seeing more than or greater than 60-mile-per-hour winds. We're looking at roughly about a 5 to 15% chance this evening. Now, keep in mind, this does not include tomorrow. This is just for this evening. A 5 to 15% chance across essentially all of southwest and southern Louisiana. So Cameron, Calcasieu, Beauregard, Vernon, Rapides, Allen, Jeff Davis, Vermilion, Acadia, I can read. Evangeline, Avoyelles, St. Landry, Lafayette, Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes, all in that 5 to 15% chance of seeing some damaging winds tonight. Now, these are going to go up as we go into tomorrow. Looking at the probability of large hail, you can see the higher risk there up across parts of Rapides and Avoyelles parishes, looking at a 15 to 30% chance of seeing greater than quarter-size hail up that way this evening. The majority of the rest of the region away from the immediate coastline is in a 5 to 15% chance of seeing that large hail. So overall, a little bit lower risk, and then no real risk of seeing hail right along the immediate coastline. You can see those areas are not highlighted at all. So again, this is just for tonight. Now, as we head into tomorrow, those risks are going to increase. This is a look at our severe weather outlook going into tomorrow morning. The time frame for this is generally going to be about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning through roughly about 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon for this activity to move through. The greatest overall risk, as you can see, is across parts of south central, southeast Louisiana, into parts of southern Mississippi. I showed that high risk area in parts of central Mississippi. It's not on this graphic here, but the most significant risk of severe weather is going to be across parts of southern and central Mississippi, but we are still looking at a risk across our area. You can see essentially parts of Avoyelles, St. Landry, upper St. Martin parishes in that moderate risk. So that's a category 4 out of 5. That's the areas highlighted in red on your screen there. Areas highlighted in the orange, that's an enhanced risk. That's a category 3 out of 5, where we're still looking at the possibility of seeing some tornadoes. The yellow area, that does include Lake Charles in a slight risk. That's a category 2 out of 5. And then the areas highlighted in green across southeast Texas in a category 1 or marginal risk. So that's going to be the Beaumont, Port Arthur areas and up towards Woodville. Now, talking specifically about what kind of threats we can anticipate with this storm, the tornado risk, unfortunately, looks like is going to be the highest of the severe threats. We've got tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail. And of those, the highest overall risk is going to be for tornadoes. You can see the graphic here, and I'm kind of broken it down a little bit more on the text on the right. So essentially, the highest risk areas, as we just talked about, is going to be portions of Avoyelles, St. Landry, and upper St. Martin, where we're looking at a 15 to 30% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of any location in those parishes. And if you're looking at the graphic on the left, you see those kind of dashed lines going through parts of south central and southwest Louisiana. That's an area that's being highlighted for the potential for greater than EF2 or greater tornadoes. So not only the possibility of a tornado, but a possibility of a strong tornado, more than one potentially, across parts of south central and southwestern Louisiana here as we go through tomorrow morning. For the areas highlighted in yellow, that we're looking at about a 10 to 15% chance of seeing a tornado. So that would be essentially East Cameron Parish, Eastern Vernon Parish, just about all of Rapides Parish, Vermilion, Jeff Davis, Allen, Acadia, Evangeline, Lafayette, Iberia, Lower St. Martin, and all of St. Mary parishes, looking at about a 10 to 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of your location tomorrow morning. The areas highlighted in brown, we're looking at about a 5 to 10% chance. So we're looking at Orange, Jasper, Newton, as well as Western Cameron, Calcasieu, and Beauregard, and Western Vernon parishes. You're looking at about a 5 to 10% chance of seeing a tornado tomorrow morning. And then the areas highlighted in green, looking at about a 2 to 4% chance. So a very low percent chance, but still a non-zero chance across parts of Hardin, Tyler, and Jefferson counties. Those are the tornado risk for tomorrow. We are looking at a wind risk as well, although this has come down somewhat from what we were looking at this morning and last night in terms of the probability. So we're looking at about a 5 to 15% chance of seeing damaging winds across Jefferson, Hardin, Tyler, Jasper, Newton, and Orange counties. Those are the areas highlighted in brown, as well as Vernon, Beauregard, Calcasieu, Cameron, Jeff Davis, and Allen. And then the higher overall risk for the damaging winds, 15 to 30% chance of seeing damaging winds across Rapides, Avoyelles, Evangeline, St. Landry, Acadia, Vermilion, Lafayette, Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary. So as was the case with tornadoes, the higher risk is going to be further to the east across South Central and Central Louisiana, and then even higher risk, as you can see the areas highlighted in red as you get off kind of to the north and east of the area across parts of Southeast Louisiana and into southern and central Mississippi. This is a look at the probabilities of large hail. And again, similar to the tornadoes, we've got that area highlighted in those dashed lines. That's indicating the possibility of very large hail, life-threatening size hail, essentially. So that'd be 2 inches in diameter or greater, which I think is, I think that's roughly about like tennis ball size, if I'm not mistaken. But you can see that area, that risk covers a large part of Louisiana. It doesn't extend into southeast Texas, but it covers pretty much all of South Louisiana. So essentially from Lake Charles all the way east into to coastal portions of Mississippi. So we're looking at the lowest overall risk again across southeast Texas, 5 to 15% of seeing large hail across Tyler, Hardin, Jasper, and Jefferson counties. And then a higher overall risk, the area is highlighted in yellow, 15 to 30% chance of seeing large hail across Newton and Orange counties, as well as Vernon, Beauregard, Calcasieu, Cameron, Jeff Davis, Allen, Rapides, Evangeline, Acadia, Vermilion, St. Landry, Lafayette, Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes. And then the highest overall risk, the area is highlighted in red, just barely clips the corner of Avoyelles Parish there, with the majority of that higher risk area off to the north and east of our area that we cover here at the Lake Charles Weather Service office. As far as rainfall totals go, we are not expecting much out of this. Some areas are not going to see any rain at all, especially across parts of southeast Texas. A few areas are going to see some thunderstorms, but if you don't, you're not going to see a whole lot of rain out of this at all. As far as moving into southwest Louisiana, looking at anywhere between about 1/10 to maybe 1/4 of an inch. Parts of central Louisiana, perhaps as much as a 1/2 inch, but we're not expecting this to be a big rainmaker. So flash flooding, not expected to be a concern with this system, and we're not expected to see a whole lot of rain out of it altogether. Maybe a 1/2 inch on the upper end, but likely less in most locations. This is a look at the timing. This is the probability of precipitation, and as we go hour by hour through this evening and into tomorrow, you can see this evening between about 4 and 8 p.m., we're ranging anywhere between about 20 and 50% chances of rain across southwest Louisiana and central Louisiana. As we get into tomorrow, you can see beginning by about 5 a.m., we're seeing those rain chances ramp up. They're the highest between about 7 a.m. and noon, and then ramping back down through the early afternoon. There's still may see some thunderstorms across parts of lower Acadiana, south central Louisiana, getting into the early part of the afternoon, but most of the area is going to be done with the rainfall by about 1 o'clock or thereabout. So that's what we're looking at as far as the most likely time frame for precipitation. I'll show you another graphic here, or simulated radar, that kind of shows that here in just a moment. Looking into southeast Texas, we're really not looking at a whole lot in terms of rainfall this afternoon, maybe a 20 to 30% chance of rain. And even into tomorrow, you can see the overall chance of rain is not very high. We're only looking at about 20 to maybe 40% chance of thunderstorms. So not everywhere across southeast Texas is going to see any kind of rainfall to speak of. Even though there is a low-end severe risk, not everybody's going to see rain out of this system, especially across southeast Texas, where we're not expecting widespread thunderstorms, just a few individual storms. And if you miss them, you may not see anything at all. This is a look at our forecast wind gusts going through the evening, and really they're going to come down by tomorrow away from thunderstorms, but you can see we're still gusting 25 to upwards of 30 miles an hour across southeast Texas. For southwest Louisiana, same thing, kind of gusting up to about 30 miles an hour, but by tomorrow morning those come down. The wind gusts will only be about 20-ish miles an hour or thereabouts as these strong to severe storms are moving through. Taking a quick look at the 7-day forecast, you can see we got these storms tonight and tomorrow. Once we get those through, though, we've got a few days of very nice weather. We're going to be looking at plenty of sunshine behind that cold front Sunday and Monday. Temperatures will be in the upper 60s to lower 70s. It'll be very spring-like out there. So very, very nice, including for really going into Tuesday. We're still looking at pretty nice conditions, although it'll be a little bit warmer. By Wednesday, we're going to be bringing those a few showers and thunderstorms back into the forecast ahead of another cold front. You can see the temperatures cool off again Wednesday night into Thursday. So So we got about 3 days or so of nice weather behind this before the next real chance of rain comes, and we cool back off again for the latter part of the week. The good news is with the cold front coming through on Wednesday, next weekend may not be quite so wet. We've had a period here where we've had a lot of rainfall and a lot of potential severe weather on weekends, the last few weekends. So that might give us an opportunity to get out of that pattern a little bit and back into some drier weekends. So that's what we have here this afternoon from the National Weather Service. As always, if you have a question, feel free to post them in our comment section. I'll be happy to answer them here over the next little while. Let me go ahead and run through here if I can find my mouse and see if we do have any questions. And feel free to throw it in there at any time. Tim says, Donald, what about the red flag conditions after the front passes? Our hams are firefighters too. The winds, like we were just looking at, the winds are going to come down somewhat. They're still going to be gusty behind the front. And the dew points, the moisture is going to come down a little bit, but I don't think we're going to actually reach red flag conditions. Conditions are certainly going to be a little bit more favorable behind the front for fires. You can see those. This is our wind gusts across southeast Texas. You can see by the time that front gets through, looks like sometime, this actually doesn't really show it too well because it only goes out till noon. But you can see those wind gusts are really only 10 to 15 miles per hour as that front's approaching, and they're not going to be extremely strong behind the front. They're going to be a little breezy. We'll be looking at maybe about 15-mile-an-hour wind gusts as those winds turn around and that drier air begins to work through. But we're not going to be looking at the 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts like we're seeing today. That's just, we're not expecting that once that front rolls through. And then certainly as we get into a Saturday night, those winds are going to come down more quickly. So I do think there's going to be a risk for fires, especially as that drier air moves through, but it's likely not going to reach red flag criteria. Now, that's not to say there's areas, a large swath of the central part of the U.S. right now that are under red flag conditions. I think somebody told me earlier that parts of North Texas were actually breaking wind gust records just from the gradient winds from this system. They were getting wind gusts close to hurricane force, 75, 80 miles an hour up across parts of North Texas, southern Oklahoma, parts of the central part of the country where there's not a whole lot to slow down the wind out there. And that's closer to the center of the low pressure area that's bringing us this threat. So those areas are certainly at much higher risk for wildfires. Nick says, if you're in the enhanced risk, what are the chances of a tornado usually? They vary. Enhanced risk doesn't necessarily mean that there's a higher or lower risk of tornadoes. It means there's a higher risk of something. So in this case, let me go ahead and I'll show you the actual tornado risk here. Give me just a moment. Let me scroll forward here. So this is our actual probabilities of seeing a tornado for this event. Now, that's not going to be the case for every event like this, but in this case, you can see the probabilities range anywhere from 2 to 4% across southeast Texas to as high as 15 to 30% across parts of central Louisiana and southeast Louisiana. Those are the areas highlighted in red. And you can kind of see I've broken down the individual parishes there by their probabilities. I'm not sure exactly where you are, but you can take a look at that and get an idea of what the actual probabilities of seeing a tornado in your area are. Brooklyn asks, should we be concerned in Alexandria? Yes, there is going to be a severe weather risk in Alexandria. In fact, looking at this graphic here, looking at the tornado risk, you're in that yellow area. So you're looking at a 10 to 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of Alexandria tomorrow morning. And further than that, you can see you're also in that hatched area, that area of the kind of the dotted lines there, indicating that there's at least a 10% chance of seeing a EF2 or greater tornado in your area. So yes, there is a severe weather risk in Alexandria tomorrow morning. Crystal's asking about New Iberia. Same idea. You're also in that yellow area, so you're looking at a 10 to 15% chance. And you're also in that hatched area of the dotted lines where you're looking at least a 10% chance of seeing an EF2 or greater. Michelle says, would you please give us a timeline? I kind of did a few minutes ago, but I'm going to show you another graphic here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Give me just a moment. X out of this, and we're going to move over to this. All right, so this graphic here, this is actually a program that we use here internally. I don't show this too often on here, but it does give a pretty good idea as far as the timeline goes. So I'm going to See if I can back up here. I'll get rid of this. This is lying to me. There is data. All right, so what we're looking at here is almost kind of like a simulated radar. And let me see if I can scroll down here so we can actually get an idea of the time. So this is 4 a.m. Saturday morning. So I'm going to move this in motion here, and this will kind of give you an idea. So 4 a.m., this is 5 a.m. And what I'm going to show you here, don't necessarily take this as what's going to happen as far as the intensity of storms. This is just going to give you an idea of what to expect in terms of the timeline. So this is 5 a.m. You can see we're going to have some showers and thunderstorms beginning to develop. 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, and then getting into 1 o'clock. You can see the activity by about 1 o'clock is beginning to move off to the east. You can see Baton Rouge listed there, Alexandria. So by the time we get to about 2 o'clock, most of this activity is just about out of here. There are potentially still a few thunderstorms kind of Lafayette eastward, but most of the activity is out of here. So by 3 p.m., it's pretty much all gone. So that's why I'm saying this is not necessarily going to be an all-day event, especially for those of you across Southeast Texas. This is going to end fairly early. By about 10, 11 a.m., this activity should be pretty well out of Southeast Texas. By about noon, 1 o'clock, out of Southwest Louisiana, and then by about 3 o'clock, out of South Central Louisiana. And at that point, it becomes more of a Southern Mississippi, Alabama problem. So that kind of gives you hopefully a little bit of an idea of what to expect in terms of actual timeline as we go into tomorrow morning. Chelsea asks, should I be concerned in a mobile home in St. Martinville in St. Martin Parish? Mobile homes are not safe places to be in tornadoes. So if we do end up issuing a tornado watch or a tornado warning, you do want to seek a more substantial shelter. Now, what does that mean? That it could mean anything from if you have a friend or relative that has a home with a foundational structure. If you don't have that, any kind of business, Walmart's fine, Dollar General would be okay too. Any kind of business that's also built on a foundation is going to be a better place to seek shelter than a mobile home. Mobile homes are usually elevated off the ground. They also have very broad faces, so wind can very easily flip them over. I've experienced, or I've gone out and done storm surveys, and I've seen more damage and fatalities related to people in mobile homes than just about anything else. So almost any other structure is going to be more or is going to be safer than being in a mobile home. So yes, that's not where you want to be in the event of a tornado warning. Dana says, I'm okay in my double wide until 4:30 a.m. I have to work early. I think most of the activity is going to be after 4:30 a.m. It may be starting at that point. My guess is we'll probably have a tornado watch by that point. But depending on exactly where you are, I think the overall probabilities of activity at 4:30 it's just going to be getting going at that point. I think it's going to be kind of between 5 and, again, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon for the majority of our activity. Sarah asks, how is Southeast Texas looking, specifically Woodville area? I have terrible storm anxiety. For the Woodville area, the overall risk across all of Southeast Texas is going to be lower than it is across Southwest Louisiana and Central Louisiana. You can see you're in that green area here, so this is the tornado risk. You're looking at roughly about a 2 to 4% chance, which is not zero, but it is lower than most of the area is expected to see. As far as the wind risk, you can see you're right on the back edge of that 5 to 15% area. We're seeing 60 mile an hour or greater winds. So those probabilities are also relatively low, but not zero. And the probability of large hail, you're also in that 5 to 15% range for quarter-size hail or larger. And remember, when we're talking about across Southeast Texas, not everybody is even going to see rain out of this across Southeast Texas. There are some areas that aren't going to see rain at all, but there is still a low-end risk for severe weather across Southeast Texas. Leslie asked, did I see the overturned 18-wheelers in the Texas Panhandle? No, but that wouldn't surprise me, especially with those winds we just talked about. You get a 70 or 80 mile per hour wind hitting the side of an 18-wheeler. Again, just like with mobile homes, like we were talking about a minute ago, very broad face, a lot of surface area for that wind to hit. So that's why they get knocked over. In mobile homes, that exact same thing happens. So yeah, I didn't see that, but that certainly wouldn't surprise me. Andrea is asking the same thing. Are we okay to stay in a mobile home in Upper St. Martin? I wouldn't recommend it if there's a tornado watch or warning issued for your area. Mobile homes are never safe places to be in severe weather. Brooklyn asks, could the moderate risk go more into Alexandria by the next update? It could. I don't necessarily expect it to. This hasn't changed a whole lot across our area today. They did add the high risk across parts of central Mississippi and Alabama, but that's really the only change they've made. If I can kind of back out here and show you the broad scale view, you can see it there. That purplish area, that's the high risk area, which extends roughly from Jackson to Birmingham, south to Montgomery in Alabama. But the overall risk really hasn't changed at all across our area today. And I don't think it's going to change much going into tomorrow. Maybe a little bit. It is possible the moderate risk could be shifted a little bit further to the west in Alexandria, since it's already fairly close to begin with. But I wouldn't expect dramatic changes. I mean, looking for Alexandria to where this moderate risk starts, you're only probably about 10 miles from it. So yeah, it's possible that that could kind of be pushed back into Alexandria. But I don't want you to focus too much specifically on the exact delineation between an enhanced risk and a moderate risk. The bottom line is there is going to be a severe weather risk tomorrow. So you want to just kind of stay weather aware through the morning hours. Nick asked, would a gas station work? If you're talking about as a shelter, it would be better than a mobile home. Gas stations have those big overhangs, so those tend to get messed up pretty good in severe weather. But the buildings themselves are usually built on foundations, so those are going to be a little bit more secure than a mobile home would be. Not necessarily an ideal place to be, but it is better than a mobile home. Tina says, baseball tournament in Port Allen at 1 o'clock. What does it look like? The conditions should be improving by 1 o'clock. I'm not going to promise you that all the storms are going to be out of here by then, but the activity will be moving off to the east by 1 o'clock. And I think by the time we get to about 3 o'clock, it's going to be just about out of everywhere. So in the event that there are storms ongoing, you'll probably be able to wait them out. Natasha's asking about the Sulphur and Carlis area. Again, we're looking at roughly, you're in that category 2 out of 5, that slight risk. Let me go ahead and come forward here. I'll show you the specific probabilities. You're going to be looking at a 10 to 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of the Sulphur Carlis area. We're looking at roughly a 5 to 15% chance of seeing winds of 60 miles an hour or greater. And we're looking at roughly a 15 to 30% chance of seeing quarter size or larger hail in the Sulphur Carlis area tomorrow. Jennifer's asking, will Welsh be in the enhanced risk? Again, I don't want you to get too caught up in the exact locations of these delineations here, but yes, Welsh is in the enhanced risk right now. Donovan asks, could Estherwood see a tornado? Yes. They could. I'm not saying it will, but they could. Gladys asked, would a wooden house off the foundation be safer than a mobile home? Not by much. The important thing to keep in mind is you want something that's on the ground. If you're in something like a camp or something that's elevated significantly off the ground, that gives a lot of opportunity for wind to get underneath that and lift that. So no, that wouldn't necessarily be a very safe place to be. Is it better than a trailer or a mobile home? Maybe, but not by much. I would recommend finding a better shelter than that in the event of a tornado. Ronnie's going to Florida tomorrow. Lucky Ronnie. What do I think the roads will be like? I think that early in the morning, you're going to be dodging thunderstorms. I don't think there's going to be anything wrong with the roads themselves. We're not expecting flooding or anything, but you are going to be dodging potentially severe storms. If a hailstorm moves over the road when you're traveling it, you could be running through that too. So yeah, you're going to be dodging potentially severe thunderstorms on the road, especially tomorrow morning. Chandra's asking about the Kaplan Mo area, chances for tornadoes. Let me go ahead and pull that back up here. There's our tornado risk. So you can kind of take a look at it for those of you who are asking. Again, I've got the individual parishes written down there on the right-hand side for you to take a look. Generally, you're looking at a 10 to 15% chance of tornadoes within 25 miles of the Kaplan area tomorrow. Jennifer asked, what time in the morning again, or will it start tonight? It's going to be a little of both. Not necessarily tonight, but we are going to be looking at a low-end severe weather risk kind of this afternoon through this evening until about, say, 7 or 8 o'clock this evening. Then we're going to have a little bit of a break. Then we're going to be looking at this larger severe risk coming through tomorrow morning. I think between about 5 a.m. and 1 p.m. is the time frame we're looking at right now. In fact, I want to let me see if I can jump back over to the radar here just to make sure there's nothing popping up on it. So you can continue to see we are looking at generally some light showers out there this afternoon. The highest overall risk for severe weather this afternoon and this evening is actually going to be up across parts of Rapides and Avoyelles parishes. You can see there's nothing really going on out there besides just some light sprinkles almost at the moment. But we will be monitoring this activity for the potential to intensify through the afternoon this evening. But again, the biggest overall risk is going to be tomorrow morning. Brian asks, I will be driving from Abbeville to Baton Rouge tomorrow morning, leaving about 5:36 and coming right back. I should be home around 9:30 or 10. Will I be okay? No, that's going to be right when the severe storms are expected. So you're going to be dodging potentially severe thunderstorms if you're on the roads during that time. All right, not seeing any more questions at the moment, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the time being. If you think of a question, once we get off of our live aspect here, or if you're watching this as a recording, feel free to shoot us a direct message on Facebook. We'll be happy to answer your questions. That way, you can email me directly. My email is on your screen there in the bottom right-hand corner, donald.jones@noaa.gov. I'll be happy to answer your questions that way. You can also give us a call here at our office, area code 337-477-5285. We're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to answer all of your burning questions. You can also send us a message on X. You can also send us a message on Instagram. So lots of ways to get in touch with us if you do still have any lingering burning questions. We're not going to do another one of these today. Our next briefing, if we do another one, might be tomorrow morning. We'll see how that plays out and what our staffing looks like and what evolves with the weather. So we may provide an update in the morning. Otherwise, continue to monitor our social media pages or our website, weather.gov/Lake Charles, for the latest information. Most of us are probably not going to be up by 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning unless you have children that need to get off to school, but it's Saturday, so you shouldn't have to do that. The point is, have a way to receive weather warnings before you go to bed tonight, because this is going to begin early in the morning, and you may still be asleep for the first part of it. So have something that could potentially wake you up in the event that a severe weather warning is issued. So, phone apps often have the ability to give you notifications for severe weather. Weather radios, good options as well. So just have a way that you can be alerted in the event that some of the severe weather develops before you get up in the morning. In the meantime, everyone have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and evening. Stay safe, stay dry, and we will talk to you again probably sometime tomorrow.